Today would have been Mac Miller's 32nd birthday, and in order to honor him in some way, I just thought I would do like a short little birth chart reading just for fun. I obviously did not know him personally, but I very much grew up with his music, and I still listen to his music very frequently, and so it's kind of weird to think about like how he's not on this earthly plane anymore. But before I pull up his chart, before I start, interpreting the chart, this is a little trigger warning that I will be talking about things like mental health, depression, addiction, substance abuse. So yeah, take that as your little warning before going forward. Mac Miller was a rapper, a producer, a writer, and a singer, and he was incredibly well respected by everyone who knew him and very much beloved by his fans. Right away, looking at his chart, I can tell that he is multi-talented, incredibly sensitive, and deeply driven. Immediately, my eyes were drawn to his 11th house with like a huge emphasis on that Capricorn energy. When I see a lot of Capricorn energy in a chart, it tells me that yes, this person is hardworking and ambitious, but it also tells me that this person is probably pretty hard on themselves, and they put a lot of pressure on themselves to like be the best, and they really hold themselves at a higher standard than they would other people. And looking at all he accomplished, it's very easy to see that he was incredibly ambitious and very hardworking. And it's like once he set his mind to something, he was going to achieve it, like one way or another. And I think he knew, like from an early age, like on an intuitive level, that he was gonna make it someday. Like he knew what he had to offer the world, and he knew that it was good. He was so driven to accomplish that and create a life that he wanted to live, and I think all of that is very evident with his 11th house emphasis. And with that Capricorn energy, he knew he wasn't going to get there without a lot of hard work, and he did work hard, and he worked for many years, and he didn't really care how long it was going to take him to get that fame because he knew it was going to happen. And I think part of him really enjoyed putting in that extra effort and putting in those extra hours. It's like it energized him. He really had like an abundance of creative energy as well. He's got Gemini on his 5th house, and so that tells me that he's got to have like multiple things going at once. And so I think that's why he made such a good, like, he was the producer, he was the rapper, he was the songwriter, he did all the things. And Gemini needs variety, and he really made like the best music when he was having fun with it, and also when he was being real with it and like writing the things that he was feeling down, because he's got a lot of Cancer in that house as well. Obviously, he did end up quote unquote making it, and he really touched the lives of so many people, and I think that really could be that 11th house along with his Aquarius rising. He was really able to tune in and speak to the masses and speak to the collective and really like relate to people in a way that other people may or may not have been doing at the time. I remember a lot of the things that he would like rap about or sing about were things that I very much related to at the time, and I still do to this day. And I really feel like that's why so many people still love him and like still grieve him. He wasn't afraid to like put it all out there, and he really sang about some of his things that he was really truly going through, and I think that authenticity really shone through. And I think that is actually how he helped process his emotions, because he's a Cancer moon, he's a sensitive guy, and like he wrote about the real stuff like addiction and being lonely and being isolated and depression. And he wrote about like his lowest of low moments, and that rawness and that realness is something that what connected him to like a wider audience and with people literally all around the world. With his sun in the 12th house, I think that had him very much tapped into the collective, and while I do think that served him for a while, I do think that he was picking up on a lot more than he probably even realized from the collective. He truly was a very sensitive soul, and we can really see that with his Cancer moon as well. It looks like he was born just before a full moon, so he had a really heightened sense of instinct and intuition and just being deeply tapped into the collective, and like that was just in his bones. And when you are so tapped in, that makes you highly susceptible to energies of, higher level energy, but also lower level energy. He was a very deep feeler, and he was deeply sensitive, and he probably felt things with like such a intense like feeling that he didn't even know how to put it into words. And like people may or may not have acknowledged that in his life, because it's the only planet that's below the horizon when he was born, so it's kind of like he probably preferred to keep that side of himself a little more private, probably preferring to like appear more optimistic with that Sagittarius midheaven. On the inside, he was probably kind of channeling all of his emotions through his work and through his writing. And it's interesting because a lot of like songwriters and other writers are Cancer or Capricorn moons. Like Taylor Swift is also a Cancer moon, and she, in her lyrics, obviously, it's a way for her to channel her emotions. And I think with Mac Miller, it was very similar because he did have such deep emotions that like words couldn't even describe, and because he was so sensitive and he was so tapped into the collective, and you know, he was probably hard on himself, really holding himself at a higher standard. You know, that's a lot of pressure on one guy. And I think this is what might have led him to turning to substances, because that's a lot to deal with when you're just one guy. On the lower level of expression of the 12th house, it does include things like addiction and isolation and self-undoing, and I do know that he got sober for a time shortly before his passing. So yeah, I'm just very sad that he was taken from us way too soon. But those things that he was dealing with, it very much came out in his music, and I think, again, that's why so many people still listen to his music, because it still resonates with them like forever. He just laid it all out there. And you know, he always stayed true to himself. He kept it real, and he presented himself authentically. And I think that's some of his Aquarius energy. Like, he is who he is. And I think people really sensed that about them. And like, you know, when someone is living in their authenticity, it gives you permission to be authentic to yourself. And so I think people really admired that about him. And pretty much any interview you hear about somebody who was friends with him, everybody just talks about how amazing he was and how well respected he was. And I think that is a true testament to his character. I know he is incredibly missed by so many, myself included. And there's so much more I wanted to say about his chart. I could probably talk about his chart for 2 hours straight. But you can only say so much in a TikTok. So hopefully I did him some justice on his birthday. He really truly has such an amazing chart, and I'll definitely be listening to his music today. Let me know if you like content like this, or if you want me to do more content like this. You know, looking at people's charts is one of my favorite things to do, so it just gives you a nice like look at the interior of a person and helps you get to know them better. It just helps you understand someone better when you can like look at their chart and then look at them as a person and see how they both reflect each other. But yeah, if you like this, be sure to like and follow along for more astrology content.